Thursday, but I'm not certain yet. But I'm aiming to get that sort of nipped in the bud this week, and it actually doesn't feel like it was that long ago since I got it cut, and it's like this time it's grown back like extra quick. But I'm gonna go and get the old wig chopped because it needs it. We've got some gigs coming up towards Christmas. It would be nice just to have the hair nicely cut for when that happens and when that obviously takes place. So, welcome back to another stream. So, today I wanted to do a little bit of a stream in regards to music production and in regards to kind of like my music production journey because music production, believe it or not, was never originally a route that I ever thought that I wanted to go down. And I suppose, in sense, like we can kind of base this upon like the wider horizon of things. So this doesn't necessarily just have to be about music production as such, because I kind of feel that like the way my music and the way I have kind of ended up, especially this year, I've gone down a route that I didn't really picture myself going down. It wasn't something that I thought you're gonna go down this route, Noble. And the reason why I wanted to do like sort of do this stream was to kind of talk a little bit about the journey, because it's been quite a bit of a journey. But in regards to music production, there's been some subtle changes, well, some quite big changes over the years of my music and like my music production kind of things. So what happened? Why did I get into music production? What inspired me? What inspired me to get into music production? Like, why did I want to do it in the first place? Now, to put it quite lightly, I mean the whole journey into music production for me was it was kind of unexpected, but it happened kind of very quickly. But before I would like even really say like I was a producer, and I don't even know if that's really what I'd call myself now. But like in the early days, it was just a bit of fun for me. You know, it was just having a bit of software, and it was just being able to have a play around and put some little beats together. Whereas nowadays, it's kind of more like working on a specific track, getting that specific track finished, and then doing something with that specific track, whether it be putting it out for a free download, or whether it would be kind of sending it to a label such as Excite. And as I've said in some previous streams, there's going to be a big change and shift into some of my music as well. Not that I'm sifting out the music that I'm doing at the moment, but I'm just trying to widen my horizon and do some other things as well, and tackle some other styles of music that and some things on a more commercial level that could potentially end up taking over. But I will never forget sort of like the reason and the core and what kind of drags me to FL Studio in the first place. That will kind of always stay there, and I suppose I'll always still bootleg and remix for as long as I feel that I still want to do it, because I still kind of enjoy it. And I think sort of for me at the time it was like it was, let's make these tracks and try and get them onto these labels, these bootlegs and these remixes. But now I'm thinking more let's put some like different stuff out. So like I've got some big things in the pipeline for some tracks that are going to come out. And now the remixes and the bootlegs, if you like, they've kind of more become, let's make this that I can play in a set at a gig. So now it's like I'm trying to kind of push my music myself by like having some my own stuff to play in sets, and I'm trying to do that kind of thing and make some cool stuff that you'll only hear in my sets and not stuff that you'll hear in everybody's set because you can go and buy it on Bounce Heaven, for example. And that's, that there's nothing against Bounce Heaven. That website was kind of the whole sort of thing that really dragged me right back into loving the bounce music again after sort of not really listening to it for a lot of years. I got right into it when sort of Alex K was kind of blowing up with the Ultimate NRG CDs, and the Blackout Crew had done their Time to Shine album, and then I kind of moved away from that and kind of went on to sort of like the Clubland Extreme Hardcore and Dougal and Gamma and Squad E, which still absolutely love that style of hardcore now. But then it was kind of the Bounce Heaven. I got the opportunity to do a bounce gig, and I had a few bounce tracks from when I first got my decks back, but there were nothing really, they were all right, but like I definitely knew if I was going to play a bounce gig that I was going to have to, really kind of like hunt for some stuff, and and then that's when I came across sort of like Bounce Heaven, and then it just kind of grew from there. As there was all these like remixes of some of my favorite songs, and there was all these like it was just a community where for people that liked this style of music, there was a site there where you could buy remixes, and you could buy these tunes, and I thought this is a really good idea because it's a community. It's a way for like a genre that isn't as massive as something you'd see like number one in the top 40, but it's like a community where loads of like-minded people that like this style of music can share tracks they've made, or they can go and buy other people's tracks and be part of it, and it's kind of created its own little community in itself, which is a good thing. People say like, oh, the Bounce Heaven charts don't really mean anything, and on the grand scheme of things, when you compare it to like the top 40, and they don't mean anything. But in terms of like the bounce scene and the bounce community, and the fact that tune you've made, or that bootleg you've done, or that tune you've had come out on Bounce Heaven has gone to number one, has shown that within that little sort of niche and that genre and that community, it's become a big thing. Imagine like gamers who have like like servers and discords, and it's their community, it's their Discord, it's their server, it's what they like playing, it's what they like talking about. And the Bounce Heaven stores, they're just kind of the same. It's just a way for people that like that style of music can go and really find music to play. So, but for me, in terms of them sites, I like them, and I'll still send stuff to them. I've not had anything come out on Bounce Heaven as of yet. I've had things rejected in the past, but things like Excite, I'll still send to them because I think in terms of the scene, it's good to keep the community going. And sometimes I do make a tune that I think, it's one that would be good to go on to Excite. Like I'll still do that, but I'm gonna definitely do some other things with my music production as well. So what actually got me into music production? So many years ago, and I think this might have been maybe 2016, 2017. I was just curious one day, like how do the likes of these DJs that I was listening to and these tracks that I was MCing over, how were they made? And I had no clue. Music production was not really my thing at all back then. So I literally was at the newbiest level of like, let's go onto Google and type in like how to make a remix or how to make a song, how to produce a song. And then FL Studio was a big program that kept getting recommended. And at the time, I realized that you could get this program, and I was just like, I'm gonna get this program, and I'm gonna make music. And that was where the excitement came from. The FL Studio, it obviously offers you like a free trial, like a free trial version where you can basically try the software out, but you can't like save projects or anything unless of course you are literally you know like buying the software itself. So I installed the program, I opened it up, and I just thought, what the hell is this? And by this point, like, I didn't even know what things like metronomes were even, I didn't even know what they was. I wasn't even, about the only thing I really knew was songs, BPMs, and that was about it. I didn't know anything about keys or scales or anything about notes and chords. I didn't know anything, let alone even working the software. So I opened it up, and then I very quickly just thought, this is too complex for me, and I closed the program down and didn't go back on it. I think I even deleted the software off my computer at one point because I just thought, I cannot do that. And I just thought, hats off to people that make tracks, because I just didn't have a clue what I was doing. And then fast forward to 2019, when I was kind of, I would say I was in kind of like my prime as like an MC, where I'd like blown up on like the socials for the first time. I'd written the Scarborough Beach and the Out in the Garden and all of that kind of stuff. I was sort of during that year, I met a guy. I got sort of communicating and talking with a guy who had MC'd for many years, sort of within our sort of local rave scene. And he was kind of, at the time, I was kind of told that he was sort of a little bit of a legend, and he was the legendary sort of MC from back in the day, and he's done this and he's done that, and he's performed here and performed there, and we got talking, and we did a couple of gigs together, and he kind of, in some sense, it did help me out massively. So I am kind of, even though we don't talk now for various reasons, I am kind of grateful for what he did for me as an MC, and he did kind of, in sense, he gave me that sort of opportunity, where it was like, at this point, like, I'd been riding solo since 2015, and it was like, right, there's another MC here, and we're going to spit bars together, and he's going to sort of show me a thing or two about being MCing at the raves and stuff. So that was kind of a cool thing, and we kind of grew like a friendship. And then we decided that we were going to become a little duo to do some rap songs together, and we were going to kind of do some hip hoppy stuff together. And we went originally with a name called Fire and Smoke, and then we changed it to Bar to Bar, because we performed at a venue called Bar to Be in Scarborough. And then after that, we kind of thought, well, why don't we be like Bar to Bar? Because we're kind of like going from bar to bar, so it's my bars to his bars. So why don't we call ourselves Bar to Bar? So we did that, and we started doing a couple of, just like spitting over some, rap instrumentals and stuff. And then me, the other half of Bar to Bar, if you like, kind of said, well, why don't we have a go at making some of our own hip hop beats? And I was like, how are we going to do that? And then that's when I kind of got introduced back into the FL Studio, which was crazy. And by this point, I think I'd probably really sort of forgotten that I'd even tried this software before, and I'd only really, I don't even think I even lasted a day on it. I just literally probably was on it for about 20 minutes and thought, yeah, I can't do this. Um, so, and then he kind of said, like, we got, obviously, like, we're gonna make some sort of like, hip hoppy stuff for it. And then he was kind of like, or like we could even make like things like hardcore on this program. And I was like, what, you could make a hardcore track on here? And then that kind of blew me away, and I was kind of like, wow, like, yeah, I want to do that. Like, we got to do that. Let's have a go at that. The hip hop can go out the window, because at the time I was still big into me hardcore. I was like, whoa, I want to make hardcore tracks. And then I said, look, I want to do a remix of Axwell, I Found You. So we did. you know, got the MIDI, got the vocal. Both didn't really have a Scooby what we were doing. He knew a little bit more than me about the program, but he didn't know like that much about it. Like, when you look back now, like he could put basic like drum loops together. He could do like basic build ups, and he could put like a simple bass line in. But then when it came to like sort of like EQing and time stretching vocals and all this, like he was absolutely clueless. But we had a go, as you do, and we made this track, and we made it. And for a first attempt of a track, like it wasn't horrible in terms of like for somebody who's just like like gone there and made their first track, like it wasn't a horrible attempt, but it was horrible, if that makes sense. Like for somebody who was just starting out, like we got a lot of feedback saying like like this is actually better than when I first made my first track, and this isn't bad for a first track. And there was quite a few people that were a bit like, this actually isn't bad for a first track, to say it's a first track. If this is somebody who had been doing it for a few years, then they would have probably been like, this is awful, like who made this, like why did you even make this, like that's wrong and that's wrong. But to say it was a first track, we kind of didn't do too bad. And then we did a couple of other tracks together, or we started. And then I found that my partner, who I was doing kind of all the music production stuff with, was just not showing interest like I was. And at the time he was the one who had the software. So every time we wanted to work on the track, it was him. It was him. We had to go on like either phone calls and do stuff over like the over like like a video call. And then like the sound wouldn't always be that good, or then like next time I'd have to wait till I'd like go to his flat again. And I just kind of found that he was just showing lack of interest, and then I decided to get the program myself. I'd learnt a few bits, like again just putting like basic drum loops together, in terms of that. Um, and just started having a play myself, because I thought, you know what, like if he's not always going to be available to make the tracks, or he isn't always going to be reliable, at least like if I have a bit of an understanding of what to do, at least I could start doing a lot of the work at home, and take a little bit, so he's not just the one doing it. But he just showed like less and less and less sort of interest, and then I just started making songs of my own, and just kind of took it from there. And like I say, at first it was kind of like, I'm just doing this for a bit of fun. It's just a bit of fun. I'm just having a bit of a laugh. I'm just putting some beats and stuff down and just having a little bit of fun. One of my first solo production tracks that I ever made was a track called Now It's Time to Say Goodbye. It was kind of original, but I sampled a piano melody from a track called Hello, which is I think it's Martin Solveig, if that's how you say his last name. But then I had some original vocals kind of done for me. Not like singing. It was basically like it was more like spoken word, and I did this kind of like hardcore track that had a donk bass in it, at the time, and it was a little bit like, whoa, this is pretty trippy. And listening back now, like it's a horrible track, like it really is bad. But at the time, it was like I was just starting to learn a few things, and then I kind of went on from there. And then I did a little bit of a duo with another guy that I won't mention his name because like we don't talk anymore. To say I'm a positive guy in the scene, that's already two people that I don't talk to anymore. But that they're both within good reason. And they do their thing, I do my thing now. And that's just kind of the way it goes. But we did a little bit of duoing, and I did a couple of hardcore tracks. And one of them hardcore tracks, I'll always remember it because it was where I first sort of learnt to time stretch a vocal. So that for me that was like a milestone in my production. Like I've just managed to time stretch this vocal, and it was a guy rapping, and I time stretched it to like 170 BPM. I was pretty proud of myself by that point. Um, at that point, I was using a lot of loops instead of one shots just because like I wasn't confident enough in putting stuff together. So I used drum loops that had all the hi hats and the claps. They were already in there. So for me, it was that like everything's already there. So I just have to put it onto the project and it's there. And then I just add like riser sounds and even the bass line. I'd used a bass line loop that had already been done for me. Out of a sample pack, there was a sample pack and it had loops in it as well as a one shot. I'd love to get that pack back. It was a good pack and I lost it. It was actually a Psy and Unknown pack, so Psy and Unknown were obviously wicked at the time. Um, but yeah, it was a really really good vibe. Um, but yeah, we just did some cool stuff, and then that kind of ended. And then I kind of carried on, and I was just playing around, and then I think there was just at one point where I kind of picked up a few tips at this point, so I was a little bit like, do you know what? Like I'm gonna sort of like take this a bit more seriously now, and actually not just play around and actually try and really make some good stuff. And then that was kind of when I made a track that was it was like with the Layman, and we'd done Darren Styles. We remixed his Come Running, and we added a D&B drop to it, and stuff like that. That was kind of like a little bit of a milestone. And then I did I did some other like little remixes and some edits of some other tracks and stuff like that. And then obviously I got like right into the bounce and the donk, and that was where I feel for me my production really sort of like excelled, and I just started to improve from there. And it was when I really sort of decided, do you know what, like I'm gonna take this further. And I suppose at the time I thought like I'm gonna be a bounce producer. Whereas now I obviously see things a lot more differently, and like I don't just want to be a bounce producer. Like now I kind of want to make like different styles of music while still making the bounce because I enjoy it. But like I said, there's going to be change in some stuff, and I'm going to be making some new stuff that isn't necessarily going to be bounce. Some of it will be a little bit bounce and clublandy orientated, but there's going to be some other like some housey bits and maybe some D&B bits, and I'm going to do some other stuff and experiment with some other sounds and stuff. And I'm really looking forward to it. So there's going to be a big change, and I'm hoping that what I'm kind of doing in my production is going to kind of influence upon the gigs I get as well. I really want to kind of do some, because I love the bounce gigs, don't get me wrong, but this year I've had so many opportunities where I've still been sort of able to play bounce, but I've kind of had to go a lot more commercial. And I've kind of felt like, you know what, I'd really love to kind of keep going down this commercial route, as daft as it sounds, like them feel good cheesy songs that all the like proper ravers moan about, like it's too cheesy for me. Like I have a good few friends in Hull, or people that I know in Hull, DJs and fellow DJs that like they don't like donk, they don't like bounce, they don't even really like the happy hardcore, like even stuff like Toy Town is too cheesy for them. And they like it proper raw. They like it proper. You know, they like their old school hard trance. It's less vocally. It's all beats. You've got Nats in the 90s, spitting over it, and they absolutely love it. And I like it. Don't get me wrong. I am a big fan of it. But to me, it just doesn't compare to feel good pianos and sing alongs and well known melodies. And that is why these dance tunes, like Better Off Alone, and the things like Sandstorm, and all the clubland hits like Pretty Green Eyes, they've stood the test of time because they've been simple, they've been catchy, and I've realised that you don't necessarily, like, in terms of production, you don't need to have this project file that's got hundreds upon hundreds of channels doing all these different things. Sometimes all you need is like maybe 10 or 20 channels, and you just need that one melody that's just really catchy, that bass line that just kicks with the groove, and that vocal that just has words that, within a couple of times of listening, you'll pick up the words. You're not spending months trying to figure out what it's saying. And things like Better Off Alone. What were the words apart from like, do you think you're better off alone? Do you think you're better off alone? Talk to me. Ooh, talk to me. How hard is it to learn them words on the grand scheme of things? And then the melody, that do 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 do, it's just so catchy. So I've realised that is kind of the route that I want to go down. Because like I say, I played raves this year, or events where I've had to drop like some of the cheesiest of the cheese. But you've heard like the vibe and the atmosphere, and even if like you're at a rave and it's a little bit more of a harder rave, and you go in and play a little bit of a cheesier set, people will sing along. I was at one the other week, and you had the likes of Joey Riot like pounding in the hard style and really heavy mental beats and power stomp and proper kicking it. And then you had Club Filler, and he's playing stuff like Heaven is a Place on Earth, and you've got the club singing it. So it just shows that even though, like people prefer, or it's too cheesy for me, gets people singing it in the clubs, unfortunately. And if you're going to try and compete with that, unfortunately, you're fighting a losing battle. So, with that being said, obviously I'm picking up production by this point, and I'm making these tunes, and I start making my bounce tracks, and my first, I would say, memorable bounce track, because I actually put it out there. I did a track called A Lonely Sex Shooter, and it was a remix of Tom Craft, Loneliness, the late Tom Craft. He died unfortunately this year. And Firefox Sex Shooter, which is a cover of a track called Sex Shooter, which is by another producer or another artist or whatever you want to call it. I think it was either from the 80s or the 70s, but it was a track called Sex Shooter, and then someone just essentially did what kind of a lot of people did in the late 90s, sort of into the 2000s, and they'd take songs from like the 80s and the 70s and even sometimes the 60s, and basically they would make these like funky house tunes out of them, and you'd have these like, especially like Ministry of Sound. They were a big one. You had like Max Graham and Yes, they covered Owner of a Lonely Heart, and then you had like the Freemasons and stuff like that, that would obviously do all of these, like they'd take tracks from the 80s and the 70s, and you had stuff like Sunblock, for the very first time, and I'll Be Ready, and all classics that were kind of revamped. Big shout. What's up? Can I share with you your story? I don't really know what you mean. I really don't know what you mean. But yeah, so so I made the Lonely Sex Shooter, and at the time it was a good track for the time. It was like, I've started to improve here, and at the time, Layman, who I work quite closely with, he had been listening to this track, and he was like, I like this one, Noble. You've done well with this one. Let's put it onto Layman Productions. It was at that point I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then myself and the Layman, we did a remix of The Real McCoy, Another Night, um, which was, obviously, it was a classic 90s track, and we kind of did a revamp of it, and then we thought, let's be different and let's get Layman to re-sing like redo the rapping part, so the part where, um, you know, um, he's gonna rap it, because when we were looking for the vocals, there wasn't a vocal really that was clean enough that had the rap section in it. So we kind of decided that we were just gonna do it, get Layman to rap it, because that's the thing, we can both rap, so why not utilize that and cover the rap section, and then the singing parts I'd found, for like the choruses, they were kind of re-sung. They were off a website and they were re-sung out of a remix pack. So we did that, and we put that out, and we sent it to some pretty big people at the time, to get feedback. We sent it to the likes of Ian Van Dal, who is known for Castles in the Sky. Um, and basically we got some alright feedback. The main feedback was like that kind of style of rapping is kind of like yesteryear, like the kind of 90s MC, and like, I'm back with a groove, I'm back with an attitude. That kind of style of rapping kind of died out, but obviously he understood why we did it, because we were obviously, like, we were remaking a track from the 90s. So that was a good tune. And then sort of from there, things just kind of excelled, and I just carried on making some stuff, and then did a remix of the Akon "You're So Beautiful." That, I felt, for me, that was a little bit of a milestone, where this is a good track, and you're improving, Noble. And it gave me a real buzz. I'd really got a buzz for production by this point, and then I did, like a remix of Kiss Me Through the Phone. So again, that was the Soldier Boy Kiss Me Through the Phone. And then I did things like Pitbull Meet Me at the Hotel Room, Pitbull, Rain Over Me, I think it's called, and stuff like that. And then did some like Calvin Harris, and then did some other bits and bobs of tracks that didn't do too bad. And then moved on to, obviously, last year, where I started to get some releases on some labels and things. We had my Bounce Core stuff, so the Rain Over Me, that went on to Bounce Core, and then I had a remix of the Olive, You're Not Alone, and then I had, was it Owl City, Good Time. I did a remix of that, which was quite sort of good for its time. And then we move on to the Excite era, where I kind of felt like my sound kind of excelled again. So I had a crash on my computer, and I lost a hell of a load of stuff. I lost, like, project files, sample packs, some stuff I'd been working on, and I lost it. Some tracks now I'm kind of glad I lost, because they're not that good. Other tracks I lost, that I kind of like wish I still had them, because like I could improve them and make them sound better. But I thought the only way was just, to just, start again. and just put all them kind of behind me. And then I kind of discovered the new sound, which was when I released stuff like Played Alive and the remix of the High Hopes from Panic at the Disco, and then I did things like The Music Takes Me Higher, and also did stuff like I've Got a Hangover, and stuff like that, and that was kind of where it changed and evolved, and then we kind of came sort of onto this year, and I'm just evolving all the time, and more recently I feel my sound's changed again. So now I'm really at the moment I'm at this kind of point in my music production where I'm making these big leads. So we've got these big energetic rave leads, and I really feel like I'm making some really good breakdowns. So all the time, like I've had different eras of music production where I kind of feel like my sound's evolved and changed, and then I've kind of gone through kind of like eras where I've made tracks sort of within this style, and then I've kind of, for whatever reason, like found a new way of doing something, or like just a way of making it like a new sound, or doing something a bit different in my production. And then I've kind of like brought out these tracks that sound different to some of the other stuff I've been putting out, and that's kind of like the change. So we went from like the kind of like the hardcore days of using loops to the early bounce days, where they were just really simple melodies, and like the sounds on them just didn't sound that good, and things kind of were still out of key, and things didn't necessarily always match up, to kind of then finding this new sound where everything sounded a bit more pumpier and banging, to then finding the sound where you've got all these rave leads going off like mad. So there we go. So, like I say, going forward with music production, where's the going forward? What's going forward? What's happening? So, I'm still going to be making the bounce bootlegs and the remixes because I enjoy that. That's stuff that I'm just going to work on like anytime, and when I'm sat at home and I'm a little bit bored, like I can just jump on and do and work on some little bootlegs and remixes. And if I've got some gigs coming up where I think like, yeah, nice remix of this track could go down well, or I feel like I want to make one of my own instead of playing somebody else's, then I'll do that. And then if I feel like it's good enough, I'll submit it to like Excite or something, as I do. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be working on some original music. I've got some pretty cool ideas, some more upscaled remixes that are gonna kind of go a little bit, beyond just sending it to Excite, and we're gonna do some really cool stuff, and we're gonna push and promote them a little bit more, and maybe go for some like official remix releases as well, which is good. We've got one track in the pipeline that is going to go a little bit bigger than what some of my normal remixes would do, and we're going to do a bit more to it in terms of the promotion, and in terms of what's going to happen with the track. And then there's another track in the pipeline that is not a bounce track, it's completely different, but I've got something pretty cool, so I can't say too much about it because it's exciting. It's very exciting, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to ruin it by telling you guys. But it's not house. It's not bounce. Sorry. It is a different genre of music, and it's going to tackle kind of like a different style, like a different aspect as well, within what like I'd normally do, and there's going to be a lot of creativity involved in it, and it's going to be hopefully a shed load of fun, and I'm just going to keep going, and I've got a phone call.